that'll be available. There we go. That'll be recording so that those who are not with us tonight can watch sometime in the future. As always, if you don't wish to be seen on the video, you're more than welcome to turn your camera off. Other than that, yeah, like I said, welcome back. Tonight we've got Kylie and Tony giving me a hand. We were all at the seminar that was part of Oceania's and run by Worldscape, which was a really awesome catch up on a lot of things. And also, particularly for Tony and myself, being on live panels again at Oceania's, you always pick up new things. We had David from Taiwan with us this time round, and it was really interesting having a judge from outside Oceania's with us. He was great fun, and yeah, pretty much became the life of the party. So yeah, that was really awesome. We don't have a lot of time, as always, with our 30 minutes, so I'm going to crack straight into it, and then I'm going to talk you through some of the technical updates. Then Tony's got a couple of things from the judging side, and then Kylie's going to finish off with some of the 2024 notes that we made. On that note, in the document that was sent out the other day, it mentioned that Worldscape were going to be updating the 2024 rules, and they have done so. They were dropped on Friday night, New Zealand time. So if you go into Worldscape's regulations page now, you'll see that a huge number of the documents now have 1509 on them, and they are the current versions of those documents. If there's a document there that doesn't have it, chances are that wasn't updated, but they've removed all the old copies. And Shona was telling me last night that there have been quite a few little tweaks and tidy-ups as people read through the original documents and brought things to her and Nicola's attention. So she basically said, feel free now to go ahead and download and print if you wish with those documents. They don't expect to have any major updates from now. As always, there's likely to be the odd clarification, particularly post-Worlds, but those documents are now good to go. So first on my agenda of technical elements was something that it's one of those ones that's been interpreted differently around the world, and I've just had a quick look in the 2024 rules and they've made it a lot clearer. But for free skaters and anyone teaching free, if a jump is landed at half a rotation under and the free leg is not in a wrapped position, regardless of whether the free leg is on the floor or not, that's considered an open landing and will be called as downgraded. The reasoning behind that, when we discussed it with Nicola, is that almost exclusively when you land like that, you pause on landing before you flick in. So they don't consider the jump is completed in one movement. If you land in a wrap position, chances are you'll land turning into the final position. So it's still one movement. It might be under rotated, but the jump is completed in one action. So that was a big one, excuse me, because originally the rule talked about landing on 2 feet. The 2024 rule quite clearly doesn't mention landing on 2 feet. It says if the free leg is not in a wrap position and you're landing at a half a revolution under, then it will be considered downgraded. Okay, so that's a biggie. The other major reminders from the seminar were around spins for free skaters, reminding people that the repeated combination comes from the base position, foot and edge. And we had a number of skaters at Oceania's even who had wonderful combination spins discounted because the base positions, foot and edge, was repeated in 2 combination spins in the same program. So the easiest way to think about it is skaters who are particularly trying some of the difficult variations on the end, on the last upright. And so if you're doing, for example, the split position on a right back outer edge, it is considered the same as if you do the Biellmann position on the right back outer edge. So those two spins, when you're looking at a repeated combination rule, are considered the same because they're both uprights and they're both on the right back outside edge. Okay. If anybody's got any spin combinations that they want to run past one of the senior judges or the artistic committee just to get some clarification on it, you're more than welcome to send in some options through, and we can tell you what you've actually got if you're at all confused, because I know it does confuse people at times. Okay. The other reminders were for cadet through to senior, the short entry to a solo spin. So I think of it as 2 revolutions. Some people count it in the number of turns, but whether you think of it as 2 revolutions or 4 3-turns, that's the maximum number you can do going into a solo spin. And again, at Oceania's, we saw a couple that got discounted because people did 6 or 7 3-turns, 3.5 revolutions in their travel. So make sure of that. That's something else that I noticed today going through the free skating rules. A number of things have gone from being junior and senior to being youth, junior and senior now. So be very careful when you're looking at what difficult variations you're allowed to do for a skater, or some of the requirements. Now they will say youth through to senior as opposed to junior and senior. So be a wee bit careful on that. And the other free skating one was just a reminder that where there is a mandatory spin position in a combination that is not achieved, and for the most part that's a sit spin at the moment, the rest of the combination will get only 50% of its value, whereas in the early days of RollArt the combination was start out completely. Okay, but do remember that you have to have more than 2 spins counted for there to be a combination. So we had a couple of ones both at Nationals and at Oceania's where a skater did 3 positions and the sit spin and one other wasn't counted. So that's still no combination because there's only one valid spin. Okay. So that's the key ones for free skating at the moment. The other big one was for dance, and that is for traveling sequences. If you read the rule book, it talks about 2 clear steps in between each sequence. Now, it has been interpreted through Europe and most of the world, and so now us as well, that means 2 clear steps in between the traveling sequences. So if you do your first traveling sequence on your left foot, you have to step to the right foot, step back to the left foot, and then you can step on the right foot to do the second set. And that applies between the second set and the third set as well. Oh, excuse me. Pumping type steps where you don't clearly change your weight to the other side, they won't count as a step. Okay, so I've seen a couple of New Zealand skaters do it where it's kind of like a chassé, but they don't lift the base foot off the floor, and that won't be considered as a clear change. If that's not considered 2 steps, that's only considered 1. It's not clear. So another one is cross pulls. If you're going to try and do a cross pull type maneuver in between traveling sequences, make sure that you at some point have lifted both feet off the floor, otherwise it won't count as a step. Okay, there's a lot of encouragement being given to skaters to try some of the other variations other than the third set, and we're seeing some really awesome travels come out of Europe where they are only doing 2 sets. They're doing one of the other difficult variations, be it the rise and fall of the knee or the waving free leg. And what they're doing is some beautifully creative steps in between, which is we're starting to see positive 2s and positive 3s for travelings as a result. It means that they can relax and do good, strong creative entries, good, strong creative steps in between, and a nice stable exit. They're not just going flat out to get through 3 revolutions. So that's something worth considering. The other 2 real brief things which are general is that you're going to find that we won't have a separate requirements document this year. In the back of the free skating book is the free skating requirements for this year. In the back of the dance book is the dance requirements for this year. So it's all in one place, which is great. The only difference to that is the promotional regulations. They are still a separate document, but for your main requirements, they're all in the same document. And the other thing that has come out of discussions at the seminar is it's important for coaches to read the protocol documents at the back of the book, which tell you things like, when do we start timing a traveling sequence, or when do we start timing a cluster, or how are we managing certain situations? Because we had quite a bit of confusion where people were going, well, when do you start timing something? But it actually says in the protocol document that the timing starts at the beginning of the difficult entry. So, or when the difficult entry is recognized, because obviously until you've recognized it, you can't start stopwatch. But the moment you recognize that it's a difficult entry into that element, that's when you start the stopwatch. So it's important to take those things into consideration. That's the technical stuff from me. Probably the easiest thing to do at the moment is just hop on to the next thing. But if anyone's got any questions, pop them in the chat and we'll answer them towards the end. Tony, do you want to go on with the judging side of things?
Yep, no problems. Really just a few things I want to cover off on, which is free skating. You guys should know all this already because you should have all read your book, your manuals, but we'll go over it again anyhow because it's clearly obvious that some people haven't read their manuals. But connecting jumps. If you have a toe loop as a single toe loop as a connecting jump, or you use it as you step out of a jump, you use a toe loop. The jump preceding it, which is the jump before the toe loop, will get a QOE of -2 or -3, no matter how good that jump is. So, simple answer is do not use toe loops as a connecting jump because you will lose QOE on the jump before it. Also, with connecting jumps, any connecting jumps that are under rotated, like we quite often see the throw-in is not done correctly. It's not all the way around. If you don't do those connecting jumps fully rotated, you will lose the QOE on the following jump in that case. All right. Something for judges to also remember as well for the next part of it is an under rotated jump can QOE, no matter how good that jump is, can't be any higher than +1. And for a half rotated jump, the QOE can be no higher than 0, because you should be taking some off for those anyhow. As the judges know, there is an automatic you take 0.1 or 0.2 off depending on whether it's under rotated or half rotated. The other thing is, if one of the position of a spins is not confirmed on a combo spin, then the combo spin cannot get more than 0. So they could do a +3 combo spin, but if they have one position that's not confirmed, then they can only get 0. So it's important that the skaters actually try and get all positions confirmed. Well, those are the few things that, on a judging point of view, you need to make sure you're looking out for that. As far as I see it, we spend a lot of time going over and over these rules to make sure that we're judging it correctly, and I expect all judges to make sure they do know those rules. for the skaters and coaches, it's really important that you guys also go over those rules so you fully understand what they are. And if you don't know, ask. We're here to help. We're all here to help. We're all helping each other, but the judges are always talking with each other to try and make sure we're doing the judging it correctly and what have you. If you guys as coaches or skaters are not sure, please ask. We're here to help. So yeah, that's it for me. Kylie, it's all you.
Okay, so yeah, just following on from the rest of the document that we put together from the seminar, really it was just, there was just a few things that popped up that were quite new for next year, that rules that are coming into play. Free skaters won't, junior and senior free skaters won't have to do, or youth as well, don't have to do choreographic sequence from 2024. So that won't be part of the requirements for their routine for the long program anymore. And also the youth, junior and senior long program time limit has been lowered to 4 minutes. Now, some of these, I presume, haven't changed. And I haven't looked at the document that came out on Friday to see if they've changed, but I presume these new things that we talked about at the seminar that were coming up in the new document will be there. So check your times for the length of program for next year for free skating, because it could be different from last year. The other thing that crosses over from the other element that crosses over from dance to free skating is clusters. So clusters, you can change, previously you could change edge after the third turn, after the third different turn, but from next year onwards, from this next season, you can change edge from the second turn. So I haven't totally read all the rules to get my head around it yet, but all I know now is that you can change edge from, you can do 2 turns, and then from there you can change edge to the third turn, and from then on carry on with your cluster. So that would happen for free skating and for dance. Some of the other dance new rules for next year, the chalk tours, backward to forward chalk tours will be counted if they're a closed chalk tour. So that's a new variation on the chalk tours. Another one is for music. When you're choosing music, music with narration in it is not going to be allowed unless it's just at the beginning or just at the end. So there's been quite a few, especially this year with the musical as a genre for the style dances. There's been quite a lot of music that's had a lot of narration in it, and that's not going to be allowed from next year onwards. So make sure you listen to your music, the music that you're choosing. Yeah, try and keep it fairly standard music with lots of singing in it, rather than using narration. Narration is not allowed anymore during the whole routine. At the beginning and at the end, yes, but not during the majority of your music. And then in the document that we did send out, we did put a little blurb about what ethnic folk music is. Ethnic folk probably is not something that we all know a lot about, so you might need to do some research if that's one of the pieces of music you need to use for your skaters. Do some research and look at the different countries, use different cultures to come up with something that you feel will be appropriate for your skater. Anything else, Pam or Tony, from that you can remember from those new?
One of the new and exciting things I'm looking forward to is we've got 2 new dances in the book this year, and they are written and designed by one of our Australian colleagues, senior dance skater Andrew Beattie. Now, having had a chance to have a chat with him during the seminar and things, it turned out to be quite a collaborative process that they were doing that's created these dances, and they look like they should be quite a bit of fun. So I think that's something that's really quite unique, because usually we get dances that have come out of Europe from people from a million miles away, and these have come from a young man who is just absolutely passionate about dance, and he's put a lot of thought and effort into these dances. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how everybody goes with them. And one of the other things that was discussed was around content sheets, and on the original content sheet, it mentioned choreographer and music, where you would put, and we all thought that meant you would put the name of the music and the choreographer or the composer of the music. What they're actually saying with that block on your content sheet is that's where you can actually tell us a little bit about the piece of music or about your program, because what they're doing now is that information for major events is getting entered into the system by the DOs, and will actually appear if there's a big screen up or a screen that the public can see what the music is. So for example, if you were to pick a couple of classic Viennese waltzes, you might put a narration there, a night at the ball or something, that gives the judges an idea what your program is about. You don't have to put anything in there, but it's certainly useful if you're competing overseas in an environment where what you've picked might not instantly be recognizable. A classic one for Kiwis would be if you decided to skate to Poirier, which would be amazingly interesting to do. It's going to make no sense at all to someone from South America, so you might put something in there that gives an idea of what you're doing with that piece of music, to give them an idea how to interpret your program. So that was interesting to know. And a big reminder with those with content sheets about the timing. Still at Oceania's, we had some mistimed pieces of music. And the one thing I forgot on the sheet, we have a new dance sequence, a dance step sequence coming in for dance, and it is designed to try and keep the creativity of dance going in terms of steps. So I haven't read the rules in depth, but the basic concept of it is that you're using much more traditional dance steps, and you're creating a sequence that is, it's much more dancey and less of what has sometimes become quite acrobatic type artistic sequences and things. So again, it's something that we may be able to use going forward. It'll give skaters who, a chance to show off their actual skating capability. There's less emphasis on some of the other features and much more emphasis on the dance. So yeah, that's about it from us. It was a very, very busy few days. A lot of learning, a lot of watching videos and discussing what we were seeing, which was great. And it's a little sad that the updated rules only came out on Friday, because like Kylie, I haven't had a chance to go through them in depth. But from what I understand, the major changes are not so much what we were told about, which we've presented to you tonight, but a lot more around the wording of some of the things to make sure it was clear. So if there's has anybody got any questions for us tonight on anything that we've talked about?
So I don't have a question, but I just want to give everybody an update where we are with our regulations and requirements in New Zealand. So we've discussed with the Oceania, also with Australia, the content for Pacific Cup Masters and Advanced Masters. That's still under discussion in terms of the requirements for that grade, for those grades. We have suggested, though, that we do use the new dance step sequence potentially, and also they've come back and suggested one of the new dances from Andrew Beattie, one of the more simplistic dances for Masters as well. So that's going to be quite exciting to get a new dance potentially for Masters or Advanced Masters. The other thing is the project team that will be working on our domestic requirements will be meeting shortly, so they'll be coming out over the next month or so, and also at the same time all of the regulations will be updated as well, so that'll all be released within the next month or two. We do have to wait for some of the project team to return from Worlds and World Cups and things like that, but we'll get started over the time that we have now and have it all released as soon as we can. So just an update where we're at with New Zealand.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks, Yvonne. So yeah, if there is nothing else from anybody tonight, probably the other thing to think about is in what's left of this crazy year that's gone by so fast, what other subjects people would like covered off in the weeks that we have coming up. We're probably not going to go every week, and for the rest of the year we'll try and fit it around other international commitments for some of our officials and support staff and people that are helping us out. But Tony's going to run a session next week on figures, and that'll be really worthwhile because we've had a wee discussion with some of our world skaters already on the figures, and yeah, he's got some really good insight. So highly recommend anyone who is interested in or judging figures to be on that one. And yeah, Di, did we have any other ones locked in?
Yeah, we should.
I'm not sure at this stage. I don't think so. Jenny,
Okay.
do you know?
We are looking at doing some sessions from our chief marshal, chief announcer, and some information on supporting roles.
Awesome.
Jenny was potentially working on that, so that'll be on the agenda at some stage.
Great.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's coming through. And also what's gone out on the flyer is we've got the figure basics with Tony next Sunday. That's the 24th of September. And then on the 8th of October, we've got QOE, quality
yes.
of
Yeah,
execution, dance and free.
okay, cool. That's right. I remember that one now. Awesome. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. And yeah, enjoy and lots of happy bedtime reading from all the new rule books.